how you're going to react or if you are even going to react. I mean, I talk a big game like, yeah, if that was happening at the store I was in, bro, I'd like double leg the guy, pick him up, slam him down. But it probably what's going to happen is somebody like, oh, you know what I mean? Especially if there's a weapon involved. But we got to get a handle on this stuff, man. I mean, I just feel like it's out of control. And I understand every time we talk about crime, what do they say? Well, we're hiring more police officers. Well, where the hell are they? Right, and it's just reached this point where they're robbing stores at 7 o'clock at night, broad daylight, even. Right, I like the old school criminals, the ones who are like scared. These ones now are just too brave. So yeah, that was Chamarita Regis' comment on that. Get a whistle or a bell, and then I would just—I mean, I told Bree when we played that story, whistle, bell, or a rocket launcher. I think I'm picking the rocket launcher. 8:35, Wednesday, March 2nd. Let's go ahead and get into the KUAM newsroom where we have the Guam Department of Education Superintendent Jon Fernandez standing by. And we've also got our education reporter, Isaiah Uggan, in the Link studio. Good morning, Isaiah.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. Thanks for joining us. Good to see you, my friend. Jon Fernandez, GDOE. Good morning, John.
Hey, good morning. Good seeing you guys.
Right on. I got to ask, did you give up something for Lent?
Well, I was listening to you guys earlier, and it's always hard. I don't know if it's just age or what, but there's so many things to give up that it becomes hard. I mean, I think obviously what I think will be helpful this Lenten season in terms of sacrifice is also, like you said, some of the things we can do for our personal health. I don't know about you. I mean, I think it's been good for those who've been able to keep up with their health regimen, during the pandemic. But with the additional pressures and anxieties and stresses, I think that's really been something for me that I've really had a hard time kind of dealing with over the last couple of years. And so, to the extent I can, looking at cutting back on those foods like rice and soda, I think would be just easy ones. I mean, I think due to age, growing, I think hopefully it's wisdom. We use this opportunity to just reflect and to look at ways we can improve the way we handle our own behaviors and actions and thoughts towards others. And it's been a tough time. I think a lot of fear in the air and anxiety over the last couple of years. So I think looking at ways to really kind of move and be a little bit more positive and encourage that positivity in our interactions with others during a time where we know it's going to be more difficult. It's a political year. Everybody's got lots of things to disagree about.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I noticed, of course, during COVID-19, the way that things just really bled into the personal relationships. We used to be able to disagree with each other, but to the extent that things that separate families, and whether it's politics or whether it's just the COVID-19 situation, we've seen the way it's divided people. And I'm really hopeful that maybe during this Lenten period, we can reflect on how we have been participated in that, and hopefully find a way to overcome that spirit of being overly defensive or sharp-tongued or whatever it is that we've been doing, that we might be a little bit more compassionate towards others in our situation. So that's good that you guys had a chance to talk to a few others. And it's good to remember, I mean, for those who didn't realize, time's flying, and it's Ash Wednesday today. So we're glad to be able to mark the beginning of the Lenten season, and remember there are still things that bind us together, even as we go through these very trying a couple of years. It seems longer than that, but when you say this is the anniversary, it's 2 years, and it's hard to believe. Just this morning, I ran into a graduate of our high school who graduated probably at least school year 2020, and I said, "Boy, I haven't seen you for years," but really it hasn't been that long. It just feels like we've been through so much, since then. Even Isaiah looks like he's been out of school for like 10 years already.
Yeah, no, I was a 2020 graduate at JFK High School.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Longest 2 years ever, right, guys?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Feels like so much time has passed, Isaiah, but for sure. It's only been a couple years, and normally we keep tabs with how people are doing, how they're growing, how they're, the new adventures. But in some ways, we've lost contact because we just haven't been able to see each other and be out there in the community like we normally do.
Well, John, that was a great talk, actually. I want to turn it over to Isaiah. Good points that you made there. A different little tone there from the superintendent, Jon Fernandez. Back to business, though. Isaiah Uggan covers education for KUAM News, so take it away, Isaiah.
Good morning, Superintendent Fernandez. Yesterday, there was a virtual information hearing over at the Guam legislature, and, you guys had several discussions to talk about, several topics, And, briefly, can you share what you took away from the instructional days and service learning hour requirement when you guys spoke with lawmakers?
Well, first of all, the legislature did waive the service learning and the 180-day requirement early on in the pandemic. It wasn't even much of a discussion. They understood the disruption that the pandemic, brought to the island. If you remember, we shut down in March, and then we just stayed shut down to the end of the school year. So that was a pretty simple change that they made. And really what we're asking with regard to the waiver is simply to extend it for the last couple of years, and really to ensure that we don't have this confusing narrative out there about whether or not we made it or missed it and so forth. So mechanically speaking, they've already done a waiver. We just asked that it cover the period of this pandemic where for one reason or another, the school year, public and private schools have all been shut down for one reason or another. So last school year, we were shut down, I think before the first day of school, for us. And then this current school year, we were shut down during the month of September. So just recognizing that this is a disruption to our normal, instructional time that we're able to provide, giving us the flexibility to figure out how we want to address those needs, the needs of our students, looking forward and looking ahead, and hoping that we can return to normal, to some kind of normal next school year. And I think our experience over the last couple of months, where we really withstood the pressure to close during Omicron, we were able to get through that, support the schools in terms of their staffing shortages. We hope it doesn't get worse than what we just went through. We certainly are glad that it wasn't that the virus wasn't as consequential in terms of health consequences for our community, like it's been in the past waves. And if it improves going forward, we should be able to return to that 5 days, to keep with the 5 days of instruction for all students. And remember, before we can address learning loss, before we can address service learning, before we can address all of these things, one of the fundamental things we have to accomplish is keeping schools open.
Yeah.
So that's why it's really key. And I just want to comment that I saw this quote on social media. I think it came from a teacher, and it was basically the sentiment that, we are not only are we going through the pandemic, but at the tail end we're being evaluated as if the pandemic never happened.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure that as we go through this, we don't lose sight of the fact that there were so many things happening over the past couple of years that we're not asking to be held less accountable. We're asking to be held to the reality of what happened over the past couple of years that prevented us from opening school doors to kids, that prevented us from teaching in the traditional ways in which we've always been taught, prevented us from assessing kids in the ways we would normally assess kids, and yet still being asked to have gone through that as if there were no disruptions is really unrealistic. We do want to address the learning needs of our kids going forward. We got to keep schools open, but if you look at the past couple of years, these are things that were out of our control. We didn't shut down the island, shut down the schools. Private schools went through the same thing. And our community, our kids, we had a hard time reaching every kid, because not all kids had the ability to go online, or if they had computers, didn't have internet, reliable internet, or we had to resort to hard copy, which was for many kids something that they might have preferred, but really didn't produce the academic benefit that we still need to see. So so that was our conversation with the senators yesterday, and we simply described what we were doing to address learning loss going forward, meaning discussions about summer school, discussions about expanding our intervention programs, and we hope that they will act favorably on the extension, and then we can get more into the discussion of the mandates and how they apply, given what we've learned from COVID-19. So, for instance, if people want to see online learning, online learning in most best practices will show that online learning is not straight time on a computer. It's a combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning. So how do you measure whether or not you're producing the adequate amount of instructional time, right? I mean, there's a lot of different things that we've learned that we need to probably adjust to. And like I said, the teachers produced 180 days of instructional time. I mean, they worked 180 days. So anything we do to go above and beyond that also takes into account that we didn't foresee that there are resources that should come along with that, and that's also another issue. I think people who are saying we should just simply extend the school year need to realize that we can't just expect that our teachers will be available. They're 9 month employees. They completed their contract. We would have a hard time finding enough teachers and paying them, which I think would be at an overtime rate in order to extend the school year. So a lot of complications in that as well.
Yeah. Something I read on a comment from a parent. She mentioned that as discussions are still ongoing in regards to mandating summer school, but you guys want to waive the 24 days of missed day. Sorry, you guys want to waive 24 missed days, but you guys want to require summer school for some students, and the purpose of summer school is to address the learning loss. I guess she's asking why continuing trying to mandate it.
So the issue is there is a requirement for 180 days, and really the language is kind of, I don't know, fluffy. It's 180 days or its equivalent is what is in the law. I really think we need to really figure out what that means going down the road, but that's what's in the law right now. So that's the mandate that requires us during the course of a school year. Every student has to have that same minimum time, instructional time during a normal school year. So what we're doing is saying we don't believe that every student needs to go, needs to have the time extended, into the summer. But so waiving that requirement for every student will then give us the flexibility to look at other ways to address learning loss. And I think the mandatory summer school conversation is really about, recognizing that some students may not need to go to summer school to address their academic progress. For those students that demonstrate a significant need, the question was whether we can require them to go. So it's a mandate. Yeah, we are talking about a mandate, but it's not for every student, and it really is based on academic need, and that's something that I think that's what we've learned. It is possible for us to issue that mandate for that group of students and to fund it with federal funds, and so we just need to conclude that discussion with the board. But again, it's much different to bring in 6,000 to 8,000 students versus all 24,000 students, coming back, during the summer in an extended school year. That's a different type of situation.
All right, and what is the latest in regards to doing proms and graduation?
So our understanding is that first of all, is that UOG will be available, the field house, and that unless we see further restriction, that in-person ceremonies will continue to be allowed under public health parameters. So this year, my understanding at the latest conversation, I'm not going to give you specific schools and locations. We'll have to make, I think we just have to make sure that's announced officially, so I don't get it wrong on the air. Yeah. But I do know that the schools are planning for either in-person ceremonies at UOG, the Cabo Fieldhouse, or at their school campus. And I think they're working through the logistics of what that means for the number of guests that can attend, given all the social distancing rules and so forth. But it looks like this year we will be able to have in-person ceremonies. Much bigger deal for us with the 300 plus graduates that we anticipate at our largest schools. But it is something that the schools are working on, and I'm actually looking forward to that. I mean, it's it's something we haven't been able to do for a couple of years, but we you kind of miss the pomp and circumstance and the big celebration that our kids deserve.
Okay. And student testing, I know Erica Cruz mentioned this a while back, a couple GDOE media meetings, that student testing or swabbing students for COVID would begin next school year, and you guys are not focusing on that this year. So is that still the status?
So what I would say about that is, it's kind of a moving target, and we've been working with public health, and I think we've been on the same page, because we know that the CDC has recommended screening testing as part of an ongoing strategy, looking forward to be proactive in identifying cases and whatnot. However, having said that, what we've been dealing with is more of immediate response and reaction, right? So we dealt with Omicron, Delta, these other waves that we've seen already in the past. So we've really been in more of a reactive mode, so that we can do the immediate diagnosis and treatment for those who are going, as we've gone through the different waves. We really haven't had the luxury of saying, okay, things are calm for now. What we're going to do now is do screening testing as our priority. As you've seen during Omicron, the real issue was, can we get enough tests? Can we expand testing at the school sites? How do we do screening testing when the focus is on symptomatic individuals? We really haven't been in a time frame where screening testing is the priority, because again, like during the last few months, the real priority has been working with limited testing supplies and prioritizing those testing supplies for those individuals who are more likely to be positive for COVID-19 due to symptoms. So again, we have worked through working through our protocols. We're working through the necessary authorities that we would need to be able to implement screening testing. But until we get to a point in time where things are calmer, we can guarantee testing supplies. We're not going to really be pushing to implement that until all those pieces fall into place. So the planners are planning. They're getting their different details together. And again, as you know, testing supply has really been the key issue during Omicron. And with that being said, we were never able to identify adequate testing supply to be able to implement student testing when those tests were being prioritized for other individuals.
Okay. And something a little concerning I saw was
one thing before I go is if the other thing we're also tracking is guidance is changing, right? So so CDC guidance, is changing. The local restrictions are changing. So even if we get through the screening testing planning, going into this end of the school year into the summer, I mean, there might be a possibility that it no longer may be recommended as a strategy by the time we get to it because of for other factors. So we have that in mind, that it is still in the plan, and it's still something that we want to be able to do when the time comes. But we also want to keep in mind that the CDC is looking, and local governments are looking at masking requirements now, whether that's going to still be in place. The restrictions have been less restrictive, going into this time frame. And then again, if screening and testing is still required, then we will want to be prepared to do it. But we don't know if guidance will change, and it seems to be something that we just have to continue to monitor day by day. So just a heads up on that one as well.
All right, Superintendent Fernandez, I wanted to ask about the teacher raises in the study. What's the latest in regards to that?
We're still meeting on that. I mean, we have
Mm-hmm.
an internal working group. We have a couple board members kind of helping us work through gathering all the necessary information. And our time frame really is to come up with a proposal this month so that we
Mm-hmm.
can move it forward. So before the end of March,
Yeah.
we want to complete that work. So we have a couple, or actually 2 or 3 committees of folks in place to gather the necessary information and identify the issues that need to be addressed, so we can work with DOA to finalize a proposal that we want to complete by the end of March. So that's our time frame and our goal.
Okay. One more question I have is yesterday in the legislature, Senator Shelton brought up that parents were sent a letter asking for, I guess, the students' vaccination status, and I wanted to get an understanding from you. What was exactly in the letter, and what was the purpose of sending those out to parents?
Well, the letter was sent by one school. It was actually PC Lujan, and it was done prior to their clinic that they were holding on the 22nd, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
of February, the after school clinic to vaccinate students who were eligible, as well as family members. So they did send out a letter requesting an update of children's vaccination status, and really I guess the couple of things that were of concern was, number one is, why was the school asking? 2, what does the school do with the information?
Yeah.
And number 3, is it a requirement? So I did send a response yesterday to Senator Nelson to clarify, and I addressed it during the informational session. Number 1 is that the collection of vaccination information is not a new thing. I mean, I think it's something that we do want to do. We don't want every school going out there on their own trying to seek the information in different ways. We do collect that information because there are already required immunizations that if you don't get as a student, you're not supposed to be coming to school. So it's, I think, in line with that. We did include COVID-19 vaccination in our student information forms that go to our parents at the beginning of the school year. And of course, we got a low response rate for that particular vaccination information. And the key is, it's voluntary. That vaccine is voluntary. It's not a requirement to come to school. So we definitely want to clarify, should we do this again at a district level, that it's that parents should know that vaccination is not required. You don't need to provide the information to come to school, but it is information that would be helpful at the school level, because right now the public health protocols differ in terms of your vaccination status. So when we look at the protocols and they say, well, you're positive or you're a contact, the public health guidelines require that we look at vaccination status and say, if you're vaccinated, then this is the number of days you have to quarantine. If you're unvaccinated, here's another set of requirements. So at some point, that information is critical to being able to implement the public health protocols. And so that's something that we definitely don't want every school going out and doing it at different times and generating any concern. We hope to gather that information at some point, because it helps our nurses move forward and quickly execute their duties and responsibilities. And like I said, public health guidelines at this point indicate that there are different protocols if you're vaccinated versus unvaccinated. So if your student is involved or your child is involved, and we want to give you the proper guidance, we're going to need to know that vaccination status in order to do that. But again, I just want to clarify, you don't have to be vaccinated for COVID-19 to come to school as a student. That's not a requirement. And number 2, for those parents who did not respond to that letter, they didn't feel comfortable, that also wasn't mandatory. Mm-hmm. And I think that the school could have put that language in the letter and said it isn't mandatory, you can opt out of responding. That might have been a cause for concern, because it wasn't really clear. So we hope that we address that in the hearing, and obviously going forward, we want to make sure that language is clear should there be any further correspondence on that issue.
Thank you, Superintendent, for your time. I know you're a busy man.
If I could just add, and maybe I know this is kind of an offline conversation between you and myself, Isaiah, but I did reach out to public health because I know that there are a lot of questions being received And I know that your article got some questions and comments from parents about the PEBT program.
Yes.
Right. So we are. I've been in contact with the staff at, my staff, of course, and at Public Health. And I wanted to say a couple of things. One is that the information that was supposed to be provided by DOE and corrected and addressed has been submitted to Public Health.
Yeah.
They're going through the final stages of review. But my understanding, and this is something where we will ensure gets clarified for the Public Health side, is that the PEBT program is not only for summer school students.
Okay, so you guys officially confirmed that then, because Public Health says otherwise all the time. So is that something you guys confirmed already?
I'm saying it right now, and I've got confirmation from staff from Public Health as well as my team.
Yeah.
I looked up other states to determine whether they were restricting the PEBT program for only summer school students.
Yeah.
But it really isn't. It really is for those who were enrolled in the school lunch and breakfast program, as so basically in DOE schools who participate during the school year 2021 school year, and if you were enrolled, you're able to receive the summer benefit as well. And I wanted to say that because that's a big difference.
Yes, from the summer school population. That's correct. So
yeah, so I stand to be corrected if someone can produce that, but that's I've double checked that, and I wanted to make sure that you guys don't get in the middle of having to defend or explain it and then come back and be corrected. I'll take care of that, and I've told Public Health, if they're getting different information, provide it to me, and so we can clarify that. But at this point, all the other states are moving forward, and it goes to everyone who's enrolled in that school year as of the last month of school year 2021.
I got to
it
get
has nothing to do with the enrollment and summer school at this point.
So that's like the official.
yes, because that's
Sorry, because
that's what we're planning for.
okay.
And again, that's what we're planning for, because that's why it's harder. That's why the master list is such a big issue, because we're talking about 26,000 students,
right?
Not the 6,000 students that would be in summer school.
I'm glad I didn't throw away my PEBT card for my kids. So
well, that's what I was afraid
Me
of.
too.
Hold on to it. If for some reason this information changes in 3 weeks, you'll still have your But don't throw away the PEBT cards, because they're gonna just load them. When the benefit becomes available. But if you throw it away, you're gonna have to go through the process of
getting a new one.
Picking it up again.
Okay, and
just a heads up.
Okay, just to clarify before you head out, this the PEBT cards will be getting $438 as soon as Public Health approves that listing from school year 2020 to 2021. So basically, those who got PEBT cards last year in August
are gonna get them again.
Yeah, I think they're just finalizing some of their plan details. But my understanding is they're at the final stages, and so again, maybe the biggest point is what you said, Chris. Don't throw your PEBT cards because you read that you're not eligible. My understanding is that all students enrolled who received it during school year 2021 are also eligible for the summer benefit. So go back to the trash, pick it out, take those cards out. And
John, to be fair though, I didn't throw it away because I couldn't find it for a couple weeks, but I know where it is now, and it's not going anywhere.
My brother's own is in my wallet.
Oh, good. Keep that safe for him. Thank you, John.
Exactly. All right, thanks guys.
Right,
See you next week.
Well, that was a lot of back and forth, Isaiah, because I know even just here in the newsroom we were trying to figure out. Right, we heard one thing, and then it was just the summer school. So
yeah, I felt bad because parents are really confused, and I wanted to prevent from spreading misinformation. And so, yes, it was definitely back and forth between Public Health and GDOE.
And so now, officially, from Jon Fernandez, everybody who got the PBT cards the last time they're gonna get them again.
Get additional funds.
Okay, got it.
$438 to be exact.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Isaiah. Isaiah Huggett, he's our education reporter. For the KUAM news team, one of our awesome young guns, 903 KUAM FM. I got in Guam. Cover me, guys. It's brought to you by Docomo Pacific.